conférence sur le futur de TYPO3 CMS. This conference is going to be held in English and live streamed on YouTube. And Matthias, you're gonna.
No,
you can start when you want.
I'm fine with that. Well, bonjour. First of all, please bear with me. I'm very, very bad in French, so the basic stuff I know is like je ne sais pas and all that kind of stuff. That's what I can actually do. If anyone has trouble following me, if I should go too fast or something, just raise your hand. We can go easy on the tempo at any time. So, let's talk about the future of TYPO3 CMS. So the first part is, who am I? I'm Matthias. I'm the Twitter handle Matlefo. That's the email address, pretty basic. And I'm the TYPO3 CMS product owner, meaning that I'm in charge of managing the team, being a contact for agencies, freelancers, clients who have questions about the product, etc. So everybody can basically contact me in case there are suggestions, questions, problems with the product. I'm your main turn-to guy. And since I get that asked a lot, I'm a dog person. There are cat and dog persons, and I can prove it. I really am. So I think the most important thing for the first part is the TYPO3 and NEOS split. I don't know who knows about this, but the NEOS project is actually leaving the TYPO3 umbrella and the TYPO3 association. So in the end, they will become two independent projects. I personally think that's a good opportunity that we can use that, because now the projects are better to differentiate. Because when you're talking to a customer and he's asking for, say, a TYPO3 solution, he'll come up and say stuff like, you know, now we got NEOS, it's the new one, so TYPO3 CMS is the old one, and we also had constantly the demand to explain, no, you know, it's not old, it's just something different. And then the client walks up to you, okay, what's the differences? What's the markets? All these kind of things. That's, with the split, it's easier to explain to customers basically what to do. And the most important part is there's no need to panic. The projects will still work closely together. So Fluid is in the process of being deployed as a standalone tool. So if you work with stuff like, I don't know, Laravel or Symfony or Zen Framework, you can then use Fluid, for example, as a templating engine, because we really think that Fluid is, well, it's a very decent product. So that's the part of the whole split thing. Don't panic, grab a towel, everything will be great. So let's take a look at the retrospective. The important thing is, what did we have in the past? What did we do in the past? Basically, what things went wrong. Because this is something that a lot of open source projects hesitate to take a look at. And I think in order to become better at what you're doing, it's important to realize what you're good at and what you suck at. And then just, you know, remove the bad parts and keep the good parts. So let's take a look at velocity for a second. Does anyone not know how to read such a chart? Otherwise, okay. So the red bar is actually tickets being opened on our ticketing system on forge.typo3.org. And what you can see is that the red line is more or less constant in how it's moving. So we can say that the amount of interest in TYPO3 or feedback from the outside remains almost constantly. But what the green bar basically says, that's closed issues. So what you can see right there on the bottom left corner, that's the first developer days that ever took place in Switzerland, and I closed down 1,000 tickets at that day. I simply went like, this ticket is more than a year old, we'll just, you know, like close it, and if it's important, it'll come back. And what you can see very well is that we have two, I can just try to illustrate that, we have two major points where the closing rate got lower than the opening rate. And this is called a decay. And we can see two major decays in the development of TYPO3 CMS. And the first bar is when Flow got announced. So everybody was like, okay, so the new TYPO3 version is going to be released in a year, maybe, let's say 18 months. So the TYPO3 CMS people were just like, okay, let's take it easy. We don't need to fix a lot of stuff. The new thing's coming next year anyways. And the second bump that we can see is basically when NEOS was announced. And exactly the same thing happened. So everybody was like, okay, the new thing's going to come in 12 months, maybe 18 months. We don't need to, like do a lot of stuff because we're going to, let TYPO3 die anyways, and we all move to the new system. And the next important point is that the feedback isn't, it's not spiky or something. It's very, very smooth and next to being static. So the basic thing that then came was TYPO3 CMS 6.2, which I guess most people are using, hopefully like everybody. And this was officially, well, no, it wasn't officially, but within the team it was like, okay, that's the last release we need to do because NEOS is going to take over anyways. So the big things we did in 6.2 was like FAL, the old file abstraction thing. We actually polished the backend, and you don't really realize it because you open up an install of TYPO3 6.2 and it looks the same in theory. But if you open up a 4.5 installation next to it, you see there's a lot of minor polishing things going on and small things that have been fixed. And then we have small fixes under the hood, and these were like a lot. It's more than 1,000 fixes that actually went into the system in that period. And in the end, it was just a maintenance release. The idea was make it work, make it stable, let it live for a couple of years, and then NEOS will take over anyways. And after that, we had like the big sleep when the team was just, like they had to gather strength again because 6.2 was a very, very tough release. It was the second LTS release we did at all, so expectations were through the roof, and of course that was very exhausting for the team. We also had to delay it for a couple of times. Developers actually couldn't finish their tasks because they were too busy in their companies, all these things. It was a tough time. Plus, NEOS was released, and we took a look at it, and we're like, all right, that's it. We don't think it can really like take over TYPO3's legacy now as it is. It's too early. Don't get me wrong, NEOS is a cool product, it just does the job, but it wasn't able to be a direct successor of TYPO3 CMS because TYPO3 CMS was simply, it could do too many things that NEOS can't do as of yet. So the next important thing was that we definitely needed to find the team's focus. So everybody had to relax and define goals and stuff that we wanted to do together. And then there was another really, really important topic, which was actually rebuilding the team, because not everybody was too happy with 6.2 in the beginning. There was a lot of like anger going on Twitter and on Facebook and on LinkedIn and everywhere, and everybody was just constantly like, what the hell did you do there? All that kind of stuff. And a lot of people from the team took that personally, because after all, they built it. So we had to basically rebuild the team and like gain confidence in themselves again and in the product. Because in the end, if you think about it the other way, there's a lot of people complaining, which means a lot of people put their heart into this. Because in the end, you can only seriously argue with someone who's put his heart into the matter. Otherwise, the guy's just trolling. So if we take a look at the future, what we wanted to do, it's basically just a 4-step process. So we act, meaning we develop something. We would then release it, which is pretty basic. And then we start learning from that. So what went wrong? What should we do better? How should we react to the market? Should we talk to the people earlier? Shouldn't we talk to the people at all? You know, all these kind of things. And in the end, we just repeat the process. And that's basically what we're doing right now. So in, I guess, October 2014, Benny Mack came up with the new, well, not really a vision, but more like a mission statement kind of thing. So currently we're running under the brand or the motto, embrace and innovate. And what that means is that we take what we have already in TYPO3, and TYPO3 can do incredible things. I've seen complete print publications, like 500-page catalogs being built with TYPO3. In Germany, there's a print magazine built entirely within TYPO3. So the editors are just logging into a TYPO3 installation, doing their stuff, pressing save, and in the end, it's a printed magazine that you can actually buy at the train station. And it's also built with TYPO3, so that's a lot we can actually do. And if we take a look how the internet industry evolved over time with responsive web design, and what was it prior to that? Accessibility, and all these kind of things, all the challenges that we're faced with on an everyday basis, and TYPO3 is actually capable of doing all these things. It might not be like the easiest thing to do or the coolest stuff to do, but still you can actually do it with TYPO3. So there are certain things when you take any other content management system, at least any other content management system I know of, and try to, on the one hand, keep up to the market expectations with, like responsive and accessibility stuff, and now it's microservices and REST APIs and all that stuff, and on the other hand, do print publications with that. That's incredible. I don't know another system who can actually do that. And I had a talk with a guy who wanted to extend the support for TYPO3 version 4.5, and he wasn't sure which plan to buy. And I was like, okay, let's start easy. So how many installations do you have? And he's like, well, 5,000. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot. What do you do with that? Yeah, see, we're a train travel company, and all the what's it, billet things, all the ticket counters on the train stations are running TYPO3. So definitely the next thing I'm going to do if I get into that country, I'll try to attach and no cache equals 1 to that when I try to buy a ticket or something. It's really, really hard. And apart from that, we simply build what we need. Means that's the innovation part of things. So there are a lot of things that could make your daily work easier, and we'll simply build these things. And we try to do so by being closer to the market. That's basically why I'm here now. Like I said, my company basically set me free from work for 2 years. They're still, like paying my salary and stuff. But I can focus on managing TYPO3 full time right now.
What's your company?
This one, WMDB Systems, in sunny Düsseldorf. At least I think it's sunny today too.
Yeah, I guess.
So the next thing we changed was that we have a new release mode. Is anybody familiar with the new release stuff? We already did news on these kind of things.
Well, we did talked a bit on the official French website about what's going to happen with the 7 version. But
okay, brilliant. I'll just try and show it. So up until now, it was always a very, very long development phase. So it was 6 months minimum. But plans, they never really work out. So the development phase got like 12 months and then got 14 months. And then at a certain point, you just go to the market release and say, this is it. And everybody is like, what's this? We didn't expect this. So what you can see now is that we have very, very short sprint release phases, meaning that we have a very, very short time frame of 6 to 8 weeks maximum, where we just work on certain features, and they're all under a certain topic. So currently we're in the development phase of 7.4, and that's basically the back-end rebrushing part 2, because with 7.0 we did part 1, 7.1 was just spring cleaning, 7.2 was front-end related, 7.3 was composer related, and now we're currently in the back-end overhaul part 2. And after this short period of 6 to 8 weeks, we simply do a sprint release. And this is what you can now download with 7.3, which we released in Paris at Smile's office. We had a code sprint in Paris 2 weeks ago, right. Thank you again for that. It was beautiful. And we just did the release for 7.3 over there. And what we have is we have a sprint phase, and what you can see is this very, very short reddish thing at the end, and this is a stabilization phase, which means we will not put any more functionality into the system, but just stabilize what we have. And that phase, it's between 1 and 2 weeks, and it can either be very relaxed or really, really stressful, depending on the stuff that we actually fixed, made better. And in the end of all these small sprint releases, we'll have an LTS release. So it won't be 7.8 LTS or something. We'll just call it 7 LTS. Because in the end, you have a lot of customers who are just interested in the LTS part anyways. So we thought it would be easier to not confuse them with too many numbers. So it's going to be a 7 LTS, an 8 LTS, a 9 LTS. And each LTS version will get the full 3 years support, like with the previous LTS versions. But 2 LTS versions will overlap for 1.5 years. So when we release 7 LTS, which will be sometime in autumn, we'll immediately start working on the CMS 8 branch of the entire thing, and that will be released 1.5 years later. Thus, you can now also skip an LTS release. So you can easily go from 7 LTS to 9 LTS in 3 years' time, or you can just, like, pick each and every one.
So it's like we're back like the old time where you could update TYPO3 like 3, 4, 5 version in one go. It was the 4.5 to 6.2 that was a bit hurtful.
True. And we know that. The important thing is that we had to change the code base. So with every new stuff that PHP got us, like namespaces and closures and all these kind of things, we just had to do it. Because a lot of that code is really, really old. And I can at least, if that makes anyone happy, installing or upgrading from a 6.2 installation to a 7 installation right now is like 10% the effort of going from 4.5 to 6.2. So it will never be such a brutal update process again. That's, I think, the most important thing to notice. And we're currently working on automated code migrations, so that you will actually have like wizards that you can run over your own extension code, and it will rewrite that code.
That's right.
Which is...
It's going to cost us less beta.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
So the other thing that we simply put in place was management. And management is basically me. So the entire idea of the management part is that we simply define goals together with the team, because I consider management not being, like what's the word? I'm lost.
What do you want to say?
I'll try to rephrase.
Yeah.
I'm no king on top, just saying you do this, you do that, you do that kind of stuff. My approach is to make the developers realize that it's cool if they would do that.
Okay, so to suggest
it's basically
more than order.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ordering is bad because still we're open source, and a lot of people go into open source because they want to do what they like. So mostly when you have an open source guy and he hears the word manager, what he thinks in his head is Antichrist. And the thing is that I value, that's the word, dictatorship. Mm-hmm. I'm no dictator. So the idea is to have consensus within the team, what we want to achieve, in which time frame, and then simply build that, because the team is just more motivated if we work that way. And I'm pretty sure that you can like see the first fruit of that approach. So the other task that I'm mostly working is unblocking the team. And by unblocking, let's take the Paris code sprint, for example. So we had like 15 people who were attending that code sprint. So you have 15 people trying to get a hotel room and booking flights and trains and taxis and all that kind of things. These guys are developers. I think they should develop. So I unblock them by booking the hotel rooms, booking the flights, and all that kind of stuff. That's what I'm basically doing. And then the last thing, I try to connect business and development. So there are a lot of agency meetups going on throughout the year. The Typo3 Association announced the dates also last week, I guess.
Yeah, I've seen it. We've done one already last year.
Yeah, and
there's a new one. It was very interesting also because we've seen that the association really took note of what we said, and it really is happening in Typo3 7. So very, very important that everybody here book the date and come to the Typo3 agency meetup and say what you want to say about Typo3 version and
exactly.
And everything.
It's the only thing I can remember where you can actually go to a supplier and say, I want this, and he's going to be like, okay, you'll get it, like for free.
Yeah, it was really amazing.
That's the important. I cannot stress enough to how important it is to attend those meetups. They're basically free. What you need to do is you need to travel to the place. But besides that, it's important that the Typo3 Association and also us as the developers get an idea what the market basically needs. You know, because otherwise it's always hard, because when people go like, Typo3 can't do that. Yeah, nobody told us that you need it. And
I saw it like at last. Let's listen to the Typo3 users, because it was very much driven by developers, and developers, they want to satisfy themselves doing nice pieces of code, but sometimes on the other hand, when you just use it, you're like, why can't I do this? It's like obvious. And
yeah, exactly.
It was very interesting for the first time to really like listen to the users.
Yep. The next thing that we put in place is Slack. I don't know who knows Slack.
Yeah, we're using it massively. Yeah, very important.
Brilliant. Yeah. So join the Typo3 Slack team. To those who don't know, it's a chat, you know, like IRC or something, but it's just so much more than that. We currently have, like, the last time I checked, it was 900 users in there. And the folks from Slack HQ hooked us up with an unlimited license for free for an open source project, which is a cool thing. And since we were using Slack, it was very easy to get in touch with other users, basically. Also to get involved in not just in coding, but in you know, defining concepts, stuff that you need. Discussing things, how Typo3 should handle things. And then, of course, the most easy part is meet the core developers. There's a dedicated channel for that.
It's really cool to feel really close to everybody, and it's really the next generation of forums, I would say.
Yep, pretty much.
Almost no need of forums with Slack, because you can search in it, so you can still find solution on problems, and also if you're really close to everybody, it's very important.
And the next thing that we're currently trying to do is that whenever somebody got help on Slack, we will try to make them do, like, you know, a very, very small blog post thingy, so that others can participate from the help that has already been given. And I think the most important part is that on Slack you can also just like become a core developer, because, you know, it's no closed circle or something. It's not that we don't want to talk to other people, you know, we're no sociopaths or something. What was that? That was live on YouTube. And we have a lot of people there's one guy that just came into the core dev channel on Slack, and he was like, I got a huge problem and I want to fix it. And we said, well, sure, go ahead, do it. And we together with him, we developed the solution for his problem, and now he's a co-developer because he showed constant interest in the system, kept speeding up TYPO3, and I don't know if you've used a CMS7 installation yet. If you do so, you might notice that it's a lot faster, but you only really notice if you put a 6.2 installation next to it, and then just click, do the same thing on the one screen and click on the other screen at the same time, and TYPO3.7 is just like this. And we're currently starting, so the whole performance thing, we're working on that really, really hard. And our current idea is to speed it up by 400%, but not within the 7 branch. That's not enough time to do that, but within the 8 branch, CMS 8 branch, we'll speed it up massively. We already got like proof of concepts in place. We will remove a lot of caches and just render it on the fly, because it's, I think the tree rendering, we sped it up by 1,000%, 1,100%, something like that. It's really, really decent. So stay tuned. The other thing that we currently need to deal with is repaying technical debt. I don't know if anybody really knows what this is. So debt in general, what's the French word for it?
We say debt.
It's the same?
Debt technique. It's the same, basically.
Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. So currently, within TYPO3, we have a lot of old code, like really, really old code. And a lot of people have problems developing with that code because, you know, like every method is public. And people complain, you know, that's not how you build APIs. You don't do everything public. Well, that code was built in 1999. And back then, in PHP 4, there was no visibility for methods or variables or something like that. And the interesting thing is that a lot of this old code is still absolutely valid today. So if we take a look at the user permission system within TYPO3, that's 13-year-old code written by Casper back in the day, and it still works. It's brilliant. And we did a huge refactoring. There's one guy, Christian Kuhn, working on that for 4.5 months now, full-time. He's actually paid by his company to just fix things within TYPO3, and he's working full-time on that. And he rebuilt the entire form engine. And for those who don't know, form engine is whenever you see a form in TYPO3 in the backend, that's form engine. And that code was like old, but really nasty old. And it took him 4 months to, like, you know, tear it apart and put it back together. And the tricky part is you don't see any difference. The backend looks like it does now, but what we have is, you know, all this required field handlings with this small exclamation mark,
yeah.
And it wasn't working all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, the sign would show up at funny places. This now works, like works, finally. And
so we're going to be able to stop using PowerMail? Or not yet? Soon?
We got plans on that. But still, the idea is that all this form engine stuff, it just had to be torn apart, and a lot of people said it just couldn't be done. Actually, as a fun fact, TYPO3 Neos and Flow were developed because people said you could not fix this. Well, we decided to just fix it. So still, we have a lot of technical debt in the core that we need to fix, to rebuild. And you don't necessarily see a lot of these things. But it's important. Just trust us on that one. It's important to fix this. And the next interesting thing that we saw is that we were basically feature complete. Because, like I said earlier, there's nothing you cannot do with TYPO3. It's not necessarily always fun to do it. But if you take a look at that data center, it works, right? But if you want to change things, yeah, things get tricky. And yeah, still, we're serious about that. We don't know any really feature that we need to rebuild from scratch. So let's take a look at our future plans right now. So Our main focus need to be editors. Like you already said earlier, it was very developer-driven right now. And in the end, we're building a CMS. It doesn't make sense if we don't care about the editors. And I think that's the most important part. So, by the way, these slides are also by priority. So right now we prioritize editor happiness a lot, or we value it a lot higher than developer happiness, for example. So editing or entering content should be easy. The system should actually supply help to the editor. So if the editor gets lost or something, the system should be so intuitive and easy to use. And in those places where it can't be intuitive, because it's a complex thing, the system should just supply help. And also we want to just streamline the editing, just working with the system just plain faster. So that means less clicks, less reloads. The current 7 branch is fully working on tablets, for example. Mobile phones, that's a different story. Honestly, I can't imagine, like writing an article like this.
Yeah, there have been some trials at one point with an iOS extension to write TT News. But it's all right if you really use it for simple cases, like, okay, I need to write this kind of article.
Exactly.
But using the full CMS on a smartphone, I don't see how you can really do it.
And also, apart from that, I don't think it makes sense.
No, I don't think so. Tablets is very good already.
So the idea is that on a smartphone, you would simply have just tasks. So you log into a Type3 installation on your smartphone, and you have certain tasks that you need to achieve, like approving content. So you see your workspace stuff, and you can just go like, all right, I want to approve this right now. All these minor things that you want to do from within the system. The next focus point is integrators, meaning we want to simplify a lot of the workflows within Typo3. And that basically means valuing one solution or one possible way of doing things over 20.
Yeah, it's very important. We've seen a lot of way of integrating, and now it's time to choose one official way.
And the important thing is that if you have a lot of flexibility, there's that amount that just can go wrong. And we definitely want to reduce these things. And like I mentioned earlier, we want to supply automated tools to transform like an existing installation into the new kind of way how to build things. We want to do code migrations for your extension code, and also we want to make staging your stuff a lot easier, so that you have like a development machine, and then you have like a staging machine for your client to like approve it or disapprove it, and then a live machine, and all these things just work together. And last but not least, we have DevOps. That's basically server administrators. So we want to ease the deployment of an entire Typo3 installation, make it more easy to get it on different machines. We want to make it easier to harden the system. That's a security principle. And this is something that we really think is very important because cyber attacks are just getting more and more in the recent years. And we want to greatly improve scalability.
That's great.
I know.
I didn't know about that. It's already awesome.
And the next thing that we need to do, there's a lot of stuff to fix. So like I mentioned earlier, we still got legacy code that we need to deal with. We got rushed features, stuff that has just been put into the release before it was stable enough. I'm not going to use the word 100% stable because what is? And another important thing is that we definitely need to deal with wrong assumptions or impressions that people have. So let's take a basic example. FAL, I think, is the best example because everybody was telling that FAL would be a full-blown replacement for DAM.
Yeah, which is not.
Which is just so wrong on so many levels. FAL is a really, really low-level thingy. And it has nothing to do with replacing DAM or something.
Yeah, it was very confusing at the time. Yeah.
I know. All right. So after all this kind of stuff, let's take a look what's next. And I just have a small disclaimer at the beginning. All the things that I'm going to show are ideas and plans that we want to do, but I won't put release dates to that. It's very simple. I could just, you know, like promise whatever to everybody, and if we don't deliver it in time, you would be angry at me, and it could become even worse because maybe you promised it to your customers, and then the customer would be angry at you, and that it doesn't make sense. So everything that we're going to show now is things that we have currently in the making. So these are not just ideas floating around, it's stuff that's being actually worked on. But we can't say 100% if it's going to be in the 7 LTS or if it's going to go into the 8 LTS. That's basically a problem of manpower. So the first thing is language handling. And I think the most important part is dropping the default language. I don't know who has ever gotten into that pitfall with default languages. Say
Which
you have
is
like
supposed to be English.
That's a very British kind of attitude.
Yeah, I know. Are you calling me British?
Yeah, they have the Commonwealth and all that stuff. No, the biggest problem is say you have like 5 different websites in different trees, and the first tree is in French, and the second tree is in German, and the third one is in Thai. And that all works out perfectly fine until the customer calls you and goes like, yeah, we want to share news. And suddenly, at first you go like, okay, we'll just select the news in the default language and show them. Yeah, but then you have a news listing with German, French, Thai, French, French, German, Thai, French, French, Thai. You know, it just doesn't work. And this whole default approach is... and the idea is that we will simply replace the language number, the language ID. It just doesn't make sense. There's no book with IDs to languages, but we have locales. So the idea is that you cannot save any content or any page or any record without supplying a proper locale to it. And it just makes sense. You type just one word in the headline and save it. That word is within a certain language. Could be French, could be Swiss French.
Yeah, there's also this kind of problematic. Yeah.
Exactly.
I even worked on a UNESCO website where it was funny because the Chinese people had to write their news in English to make them validate by the validator, but this English version of the Chinese news couldn't be displayed because it was not an official English one. So
that's tough.
Yeah, you can do some funny
but
tricks.
Actually, China has actually 4 languages. I don't know who knows that.
Oh no.
So there's Chinese, Chinese traditional, Chinese modern, and then some weird mixture from northern China. So basically, in Europe, we're off quite good at the moment. And the next thing that we want to supply is context instead of a hack. What we do, we have some sites with I think 45,000 pages of content, and they came up to us and said, okay, we want to do that mobile. And if you try to make a navigation of 40,000 pages mobile, it just doesn't work. So what they have a language called mobile. So they will simply decide, okay, this page we need in the mobile version, and then they will translate it into mobile. That's a hack. And we want to make that a principle so that you can supply context instead of just a locale.
It have been done with Templar framework at one point. There was a context content. And I've seen something a bit similar with themes. You can choose also,
exactly,
depending the context, what you want to display.
But the thing is that if these are not core related things,
exactly.
and I think it's important that the core deals with these problems instead of going there. You can do extensions, go fix it yourself.
Yeah, a lot of people also have done the same thing in different ways, and because it's not in the core, it get dropped at one point. And
exactly. And the idea is that in the end we would just have fallback chains. So in TYPO3 you can actually define the content fallback logic in a really weird syntax. I think it's like 1 semicolon dash moon phase. No clue. It's just it's weird syntax. And what we want to do is that we simply define priorities. So you can simply say when when I'm taking a look at the website from the French domain, for example, so domain.fr, French, so the local FR will get the highest priority. And if it's not able to deliver content in that language, it will fall back to the second next priority, which would be something like Swiss French, something. That's
really excellent.
And you can also do that with context. And the current idea is that you also no longer define language handling in TypoScript. But you would simply go to a page and create a language handling record.
In the page, and it's a recursive one, so you can put it in the home page and also in any other page too.
Yeah, but that wouldn't make sense.
Okay.
We have some tricks up our sleeves, but the basic principle is the same. So you just have records defining how your languages work, and then if you don't define, say, Russian in a certain tree, the editor will also not be able to pick Russian as a translation. So you no longer have to set like page tsconfig, which languages he is allowed to edit and all that kind of stuff. We want to ease that. And suddenly all your language menus will just work out of the box. It will just be one line of code. You just go like in a fluid template, render my language menu here because Typo3 now knows what to do, instead of having TypoScript and weird things.
That's really cool. Because Typo3 was already one of the only CMS that could do tricky stuff with languages. But if we get even better, we're going to be really, really on top of that.
That's the basic idea. The next thing I want to talk about is just zero overhead packages. I don't know who knows that, but say you install like 200 extensions in your Typo3 installation and you don't use any of it. Still, your Typo3 installation will be slowed down because there's loading information and all that stuff. And Tom Maroschik is currently in the process of making that a zero overhead thing. So it doesn't matter how many extensions you have installed. The only thing that could slow down your system is when you actually use them. And in that case, I think it's fine, because then you get something for your money, right? And we will simply remove all this unnecessary bloat around extensions. A lot of configuration will be dropped. And we will remove the package manager, which has proven to be a huge pain in the ass. Within the 6th installation, it just breaks. It does weird things.
Yeah, we experience weird stuff, yeah.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah.
The next, I'm trying to take a look at like 5 minutes. So the next thing that we want to do is a UI for Composer. I don't know who knows Composer, this dependency handling thing. We're working really, really hard to make Composer a central part of a Typo3 installation to remove all the dependency problems. It's an industry standard in the PHP world. We just need to get back to these people. And funnily, Composer is inspired by Typo3. Who knew?
I didn't know that.
We didn't know either. We just sent the guys an email. We're like, yeah, very humble here. We're from the Typo3 project. Maybe you have heard of us. And he's like, yeah, I know. Composer is inspired by your XEMCon thingy. And it should be easy to understand and, of course, fun to use. The important thing is that we actually have a proof of concept for that. But Composer is using a lot of memory. So this will probably be delayed until we know what PHP 7 comes up with, because PHP 7 uses a lot less memory, and then we can have a full-blown click and point UI for Composer installations. The next thing is the headless CMS. So with all the microservices and REST services and APIs going on, the idea is to just have Typo3 become sort of a content hub, where you can just put data in and out at the same point. Getting data out of Typo3, that's easy at the current state of things. Getting data in is next to impossible from the outside. But with the whole form engine refactoring, the next thing that's going to happen is to have the data handler being refactored too, and then you can just push data via REST into the system, do an open OAuth thingy.
Authentication.
Exactly. And suddenly Typo3 is simply client agnostic. It doesn't care. It's just sitting around somewhere. And the really, really fun part begins now, because we also want to do the CMS-less head, meaning that you can provide a Typo3 installation into the internet, into the DMZ, without having an actual CMS behind it. So that's basically that you decouple front-end servers. And the important thing is the plural over there. Because we run a project where we have 60 hats running, or that other guy with his 5,000 hats running. You know, each of these ticketing vending machines has a full-blown CMS you could log in, theoretically. And another important aspect is that you can actually harden these servers, because if they don't have any editing stuff going on, you can't hack it.
Yeah, people have been doing this in a hacking way already, like synchronizing server folders and static HTML export and this is something that we want to do natively. That's the important point. And deployment should be easy, naturally. And to quote Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's the future. So we need to deal with that anyways. And the last thing I want to get into is event sourcing. That's really, really, really techie stuff. So we'll simply do a short example. If you change a record in TYPO3 right now, say you change a headline from hello to what's up, something like that. And then you create a log which said Cyril changed hello to what's up. What event sourcing does is that it basically inverts this principle. So the only thing TYPO3 stores is Cyril wanted to change this to that. And from that on, we can simply do projections, how our content will look like in the end. And the cool thing, that's also why I picked this image, because you see the very, very part at the front, that would be your small minor change. And along with a lot of other changes, it will become a projection of your content. And the nice thing about that is that it's basically just storage agnostic. So you don't have to store it in a MySQL database or in a database at all. You could just project your content into, say, an Elasticsearch cluster to make it searchable immediately, or static HTML files, Solr, whatever. It's always the same. And the second cool thing is that it's also content agnostic. It doesn't care what kind of content you do. It's just you will do the small log entries, the minor things that you want to do, and then the projection starts, well, projecting. That's why the term is so great. And the other good thing about projections is that you can project it onto multiple servers at once. So content staging is very, very easy, because you can set up an editorial machine where your editors just do their content stuff and then say, okay, roll or project all the content changes since last week to these 50 servers up front, which is pretty decent. Then, of course, the question is, how do we handle caching? Well, easy. Cache is a projection. Or how do we handle workspaces? Easy. Workspaces is a projection. Or how do we handle multi-language? Okay, you get it. So I'm a bit over my time right now. Questions? Cool. That was easy. And for those people who are interested in taking photos, that's the URL where you can get your Slack invites. So just call this URL, and you will have like a small form with your first name, your last name, and your email address. Just hit the button, and you will get an invitational email from Slack, because Slack is technically invite only, although with this it's public again. So it's not that we want to keep anyone out of this. It's just a technical limit. And that's it. Thank you very much, Matthias. It was really awesome. It's really nice to see that there's a vision, there's a plan, and it's going to a very good place. Everything you said there, I felt like it was necessary, but I couldn't really put words on it or projection on TYPO3. But to see that you're going to this kind of direction is very, very promising.
Thank you. I'll definitely put that onto the team, because those are actually the guys working. I'm just
it's really
driving and flying all the time.